Well, this doesn't happen every day. President Trump has done a rare interview with the mainstream media. He apparently felt very much in the holiday spirit to talk to the so-called failing New York Times while down in Florida, opening up on the Russia investigation and more. He still maintains the allegations his campaign worked with Moscow are a Democratic hoax, a ruse, an excuse for losing an election, saying, quote, "I think it's been proven that there is no collusion. I didn't deal with Russia. I won because I was a better candidate by a lot. There was tremendous collusion on behalf of the Russians and the Democrats." The president also says America is worse off because of this probe, saying, "I think it's a very bad thing for the country," he says, "because it makes the country look bad. So the sooner it's worked out, the better it is for the country." Mr. Trump did express optimism. It's all going to turn out okay. Here's his take on Robert Mueller. He said, quote, "I think that he's going to be fair. There's been no collusion, but I think he's going to be fair." Let's take it out to the other four. I'm going to start with you, Brian Kilmeade.
Well, thank you, Kennedy.
You're the man in the
Remind
middle.
me, in the C block, I'll have an option. I might go back to you.
I'm just hedging my bets, Brian.
Right, thank you.
I don't even know if you have anything interesting to say.
Yeah, I know. Do you watch yesterday's show? I had nothing. So Kennedy, on this in particular, I think it's fascinating that somebody walks up to it at his grill restaurant, and it was very loud. And he says, "I'm from the New York Times. Can I do an interview?" And he says, "Yes." "Can I record it?" "Why not?"
Sure.
So some rare things are happening. And then when they inform his staff, he goes, "Really? He did an interview with the New York Times?" But when he does it, he said this about Robert Mueller. You know who's cheering? Ty Cobb and his legal team, because that's exactly what they want. They say if there's going to be a fight, let the legal people do it. Don't tweet about him. Do nothing but positive things about him, because you don't want to be you don't want to play into anything political about a probe that means so much.
Yeah.
Even if you think they have nothing, he's a powerful guy with an unlimited budget that's already spent $7 million. That if the reports yesterday are true, that he's combining with the New York State Attorney General in order to go through your bank records for the last 30 years, there's a lot that could be found there, even in the most pristine accounting books. So I think this is a great play for him personally, and I think he should stay with that theme. Regardless of what he thinks, stay with that theme.
Now, Katie, he also said that he is well within his right to shut down the probe as the head of the executive branch, but he's not going to do that. He's going to let it go forward because he says he's done nothing wrong.
Right.
And, he thinks that it can still be fair, but he doesn't like that it's harming the country. Was that the right response?
I think it's fair for him to say that it makes the country look bad. I think this narrative that the 2016 election was somehow impacted by the Russians is not good for the United States, and that only helps Russia, and that is something that he's also been arguing. In terms of moving forward and how he handles this and looking at this, he does have the authority to fire Bob Mueller, but there have been warnings from Republicans on Capitol Hill that he should not do that. It would be politically
Some of them
very
working
bad.
on bipartisan legislation to block the president.
Exactly, and if he were to do that, it would make him look guilty. And the bottom line is, look, if there's nothing to hide, they'll get to the end of the investigation and exonerate you. And the thing is, the special counsel Robert Mueller might actually do that. And we'll have to see what the narrative is from the people defending the president if that does happen.
Well, what's so interesting to me when I read the transcript of this interview in the New York Times is the thing that really bothers the president about the implication that there was Russian collusion was that somehow Democrats are saying that Russia won the president the election. And that's what bothers him so much.
Yeah.
And he said that. He said, "I was the better candidate. I had the better campaign." And that's why he's been pushing back so hard.
Yes, and I think that I like the fact that, what did he say, 16 times? No collusion, no collusion?
I think like 60 times he
Yes.
said that word.
I mean, he should stick to that script. There was no collusion. I think he's going to be fair. He even said he said those together. He said, "I think he'll be fair. There was no collusion, but I think he'll be fair." He's doing a little programming, as he always does. He's brilliant at that. But I think it's great. This is where he does the best, these freewheeling interviews. Everyone, did you see online the reaction? It's insane. These are insane things. Doesn't anyone speak Trump anymore? I understand the way he
Only
talks.
one man.
Here's what's really funny,
Just
because
one man.
let's say that President Obama were on vacation in Hawaii, and a writer from the Washington Times, which tends to be more editorially conservative than the New York Times or the Washington Post, went up to President Obama and said, "Hey, can I do a half-hour sit-down interview?" There's no way that President Obama or President George W. Bush or President Clinton would sit down for this kind of potentially freewheeling expose.
Yeah.
And as a former staffer I started sweating when I saw that quote from the staffer who said, wait, what interview? I mean, but President Trump has always thought he's his best spokesperson. He has always believed that through the campaign and since he's been in office. I think that, Katie's right. I've always said if you have nothing to hide and you didn't do anything wrong, let it play out. For all of his allies who've been trying to discredit Mueller, what will they say if he actually does exonerate the president? I think that will be very interesting. But what I think makes America look weak, and this is an argument I've made a lot, is having a president who can't separate the finding that Russia did try to meddle in our democracy from his legitimacy as a president.
Yeah.
I want him to go out and
Or his ability to be elected in his own right.
Exactly.
But you know why, Marie?
And who won't do it looking forward, who won't say Russia meddled, because they meddle in a lot of elections. And I accept the intelligence community's assessment. And what I'm going to do is make sure it doesn't happen again and
you know why,
confront
though?
them.
But
That's
you know
what makes
why?
America
He
look
has not
weak.
had one day without something hanging over his head. First, there was this Jill Stein. I know what happened. I want to recount in all these major states. Then there was the Russian probe right after. And then Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. So for a guy that likes to fight every battle, and that's part of his success and maybe his Achilles heel, he hasn't had one day without this Russian probe. If he's exonerated in March, and we're lucky enough to have Kennedy in this seat, and she calls on me first, which is a wise move, and then we come back, I am sure we'll be talking about somebody that's rarely bringing up Hillary Clinton. Because he can't look forward as long as this probe is happening.
But as president, it's his responsibility too.
Okay, but
he needs to be bigger than that.
I would argue that the president, although he does see the Russia narrative as a diluting of his victory in November, policy-wise, the administration and the president have accepted that Russia is a threat and that they did try to influence the election in terms of propaganda. If you look at the national security strategy that came out last week, they specifically point out that Russia is doing that kind of meddling in the United States and in elections all around the world. The other thing buried in this interview, maybe not so buried, was his shot at Jeff Sessions. And my question is how long Jeff Sessions is actually going to be around. He talked about how Eric Holder defended President Obama over and over again through a series of scandals.
I mean,
and that is true.
But how unreal would that be if Jeff Sessions were asked to resign or chose to resign, and he could have gone back to Alabama and won that Senate race as a popular write-in. He could have
done it
blown
6
Doug
months ago.
Jones and Roy Moore out of the water. I was one of the people right here telling everyone who would listen, including Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, that he should do just that. No one listens to me, Tom Shalhoub.
He couldn't, wasn't it too late?
He could have been a write-in.
He could have gone.
Oh, he could have
absolutely
done.
gone.
They could have done something, except for the way it turned out.
All right, so here's what I want to know.
Okay.
What does success look like for Bob Mueller? What does that mean? Because we talk about exoneration, and I don't know what that looks like for him. And I almost think that based on the leaks that we've seen and the indictments that we've seen and what we've heard from the investigation, what is the successful ending of this?
I'll give you an example. What I think that Bob Mueller would do himself infinitely amount of good, and he doesn't care about his ratings or anything, but when you go after Paul Manafort and you say, well, it's nothing to do with what you did with Trump, but you did something illegal, so putting you on house arrest, which, by the way, not that nice of a house. Rick Gates, also house arrest. Tony Podesta, same thing. He actually employed Paul Manafort. You can walk around, just close your shop up. He closes his shop up and goes to the Bahamas. If he starts equally going, I got a problem with this. What'd you say?
He goes to Atlantis.
I'm pretty sure because I got that slide where you
That's
go
where the things
around
are buried.
and you have no idea when you're going to come out and how fast you're going to go and where you're going to go head first or feet first is a big deal. But if he comes down on Podesta the way he comes down on Manafort, all of a sudden people go, wait a second. He's actually doing a legitimate probe, nonpartisan probe. In the end, if he calls a press conference, go, this is how they infiltrated in July. This is what we didn't do in August. This is the response of the government here. These are the Facebook ads that had and the impact that we suggested it might have had. In the end,
These are the
that's a
warrants that were
successful
sought.
probe. These are the people that we're going after internationally. This is how to stop it in the long run. That's a successful probe. I'll write a $10 million check.
Do you agree with that, Maria?
I agree with that in part. Yes, I do. But I think your bigger question is, what does the end of this look like? And I think we don't know when that will come, but most legal experts believe that that won't happen until President Trump is interviewed by Bob Mueller. The same way that Bill Clinton was by Ken Starr.
Hillary
no plans to do that.
was interviewed just a couple days before James Comey came out and assassinated her character and also said that they were closing the case.
Exactly. So I think that there are some key people at the White House who have not been interviewed yet. And I think Bob Mueller is going through in a very methodological way at the different, at Facebook, at the RNC's digital operation, at all of these different issues and checking them off. It's going to be some months before this is closed.
I'm not
though.
sure they're interviewing.
But it can be
President Trump.
endless.
I think
Tom.
they will.
It already
Isn't
is
that the
endless.
problem? Like we could be looking at years and years.
That's why, and there's no good outcome for Robert Mueller, and he may be.
What happens? Anthony Weiner gets out of prison first, or Bob Mueller wraps up this investigation?
Well, if Bob Mueller does what
O.J.'s
Brian
out.
I was just
Kilmeade
gonna say
said,
something about O.J.
he's going to be popular with Brian Kilmeade, but if he does anything short of bringing down the president, Bob Mueller will be the most unpopular people with all of Marie's friends. They are going to kick him out of
guys are
polite
my
society.
friends.
They want nothing more
Tom,
than
they're
the
already
scalp
on
of
the
Donald Trump,
record.
and if he
They're-
comes up short, he's in trouble.
I don't think
they're
that's-
already on the record saying what an above board guy he is and how he should be trusted and how he should not be fired. We can't get rid of all those
They
records.
also said that about James Comey when they liked what he was doing as well, and then they were outraged when he actually got fired after everyone called for his firing.
Yeah.
But to answer your question
Well, because
about
of what?
what does success look like,
Yes.
I don't think that question can actually be answered. The goal of this investigation is supposed to be to follow the facts where they lead. And considering the fact that we, at the beginning of this investigation, the special counsel was called to look for collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. We have no evidence of that. And my fear is that success looks like going
Confusing.
after other areas, whether it's financial, like we've seen
Yeah.
with Paul Manafort, and going down these rabbit holes of
And
legal
having
success
endless
and
resources.
prosecution,
Yeah.
right, to do that when that was not the intention or goal of the original investigation in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, is Robert Mueller's goal to bring down the president?
I don't think so.
Is that the ultimate
don't
goal?
think we know.
Is that why
Or his buddy, James
you,
Comey?
I don't
you
think
put
so.
Michael Flynn in a perjury trap so he turns on the president?
Michael Flynn put himself in the perjury trap.
Well, he didn't know what the government knew because they
So
had been
don't lie
spying
to
on
the
him because of
government.
the Steele dossier.
Which he never should
I
have given
agree.
permission to spy with
Don't
that
lie
dossier.
to the government,
That's
though.
absolutely
I think
right.
Bob Mueller is well respected. There's no evidence that he's making this partisan.
Haven't you accidentally
for all the
opened
people he
someone else's
hired.
mail?
To lead the probe.
I opened yours the other day. Is that okay?
Right.
I'm so pure.
What about the attorney who's sitting on his special counsel who went to Hillary Clinton's victory party? Is that
I'm
not,
sure there are many
is that
people.
not held
party.
against it?
Many,
That kind of fell on
Victory
its
party.
face.
many people who work on that
Where
investigation
champagne
who are
was used
Republicans
to drown the tears.
God, I can't wait for 2018.
Oh, well, it's closer than you know. We're going to talk about that later in the show, too, because the best New Year's Eve of your life is waiting. And also stay right here because ahead, President Trump puts pressure on Democrats to approve that big, beautiful wall or no DACA fix. It has come to that. We will discuss next.
Your time never seemed so good.
Fox News Channel is bringing you an all-American New Year's celebration from New York City and around the country. Catch the big
To begin on Twitter today, what's on his mind this Friday? Immigration. He's warning Democrats that in order to get a deal to protect the so-called dreamers, they must okay the cash for his border wall. Quote, the Democrats have been told and fully understand that there can be no DACA without the desperately needed wall at the southern border and an end to the horrible chain migration and ridiculous lottery system of immigration. We must protect our country at all cost, exclamation point. Brian Kilmeade, you're getting the first answer in all of the blocks today.
Oh, wow.
There's nothing what he tweeted, Marie, and that is surprising. But I'm very curious to see what the Democrats are going to bring to the table.
Right.
And number one, they must be sitting there saying strategically, what is the best thing for us to do? Because they want to be successful in 2018.
And DACA
more
matters to them a lot.
Right, that matters to them a lot.
Right.
So Senator Schumer tweeted out that so-called dreamers are not a bargaining chip for the border wall and inhumane deportation force, period. So he's saying if you bring up the wall, it has nothing to do with DACA. DACA doesn't, if you don't put DACA in the budget January 19th, we don't pass. I sense an impasse unless the leadership on the left can, because I think that President Trump is pliable. The leadership on the left will stand up. I'm sorry. The Democrats on the left will stand up to Schumer and say, listen, I know where you stand.
Yeah.
We got to get something done. And there's a bipartisan committee now meeting in the Senate already through December that has even Senator Jeff Flake thinking they're going to be set on some type of compromise in January.
Well, speaking of Jeff Flake, I'm glad you brought him up. On December 19th, when he was in the middle of saying he was going to vote yes for the tax bill, he tweeted, bipartisan DACA bill on Senate floor in January. He seems to believe that's coming and has talked about that, at least with Mitch McConnell. Katie, do you think there's actually going to be something in the Senate that gets support some sort of compromise?
Depends
Because
on what it
Democrats
is.
do care about DACA, and some Republicans say they do too.
Yeah, but it depends on what DACA is defined as. Is it defined as the same thing that President Obama signed through via executive fiat without a lot of details of end dates or what the terms are or who gets to apply?
Or are they citizens?
Are they citizens? Do they get a green card? Do they get legal status? I mean, there are a lot of details in this bill that are going to have to be worked out. I'm not so confident that in 25 days we have now for them to get this done, that it will get done. But you're right, Brian. President Trump is malleable on this. And let's not forget, in September, he actually took a lot of heat because he was talking about DACA and saying we're going to do something for these people.
With
and
Chuck
the
and
wall,
Nancy.
quote,
Yeah,
will, the
and
wall will
not
come
Mitch and
later.
Paul.
He
Right.
said the wall will come later, and that was a red flag for people. So he's reversed course on that. But I think DACA is too complicated to push through in 25 days.
Well, Kennedy, on DACA, though, the polls might help here. CNN poll released in December showed 83% of Americans in favor of Dreamers staying. A Fox News poll from September showed 63% of Trump voters in favor of Dreamers gaining citizenship. So is there some sort of public pressure that really might push them on this issue earlier in the year, closer, farther away from
I don't even think you need to have public pressure. I think
don't.
this is something where both sides want to work on it.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather see bipartisan effort in terms of DACA than something like infrastructure, where they're going to spend so much money that we just simply don't have.
Yeah.
And here they can come up with a solution. And the solution, it can be a little bit more subtle. It can be more nuanced. You can offer citizenship to Dreamers who are in the military. People who are
Right,
wearing
right.
the uniform and those in law enforcement. People who are truly fighting for and protecting and defending this country. I think they
Super
put
dreamers.
they are super dreamers.
I mean, yeah, just give
also,
them- they should get their own little organization.
if you have gone to college, if you have started a business, if you have never gotten a speeding ticket, I think that's a different
You're paying
category of
taxes in
person.
some cases.
Absolutely, and that's why you're seeing so many people say yes, absolutely. They need to do something. So go ahead and put something together. Stop politicizing it. And it's always been a bargaining chip. I mean, it's so important to
but you-
Democrats.
But
the
it's
wall
the
is so
wall.
Here's the
important to the
nuance, though,
president.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
For example,
The wall is the issue.
So if you say, okay, if you were brought here at a young age, 2 or 3 years old, and you're now 22 years old, can you stay? Okay, there's a pathway to citizenship for them. What about their parents?
Right,
The
exactly.
answer is no. The
So-
Republicans say the parents, no.
It's
You
easy.
snuck
Tom,
in.
No.
The
it's
answer is
easy
no.
to
A lot of
say.
people say no, no.
Right, but
Let their
that's the
parents
question,
in.
right?
Tom,
Can the
isn't-
kids naturalize the parents?
Isn't the point, though,
Right,
these are
that's the
complicated
slippery
questions.
slope.
Governing is complicated. That's why we send people to Washington. Does this get done? Does the wall get built, or part of it get built?
I think so, but they absolutely have to be a bargaining chip. It sounds good when Chuck Schumer says, dreamers are not a bargaining chip. Of course they are.
Everything's
Can we
important.
just put that
Yes.
out, too? It's Democrats who have used illegal immigration and the Dreamers as a bargaining chip for all this time. They had a chance to get this done under Obama, and they didn't. They kicked it over to Trump and said he was being, not having a heart.
Remember when
for
they
daring
heckled
to do it
Nancy
that way.
Pelosi?
Right.
They
But-
weren't heckling Donald Trump or Mitch McConnell. They were heckling
Because they had an opportunity and
I've
they
been
blew
heckling
it.
Donald Trump. So what happens in March? What happens? The president set this artificial, in some respects, deadline of March. What
Why
happens
not? I don't take the whole list: chain migration, the lottery system, the wall, extreme vetting. I'll give you those four for the dreamers. That sounds like a good deal to me.
Right. So
You should be in
Tom
Congress.
Shalhoub.
Yeah,
Right.
Let's make the deal right now,
Shalhoub,
Brian.
2018.
Shalhoub's ready to work.
He's running for office.
But that is a question. These are real people, 800,000 dreamers. In March, I do think there have been a lot of stories about some of them who are nervous about the future. They have families. We can't forget that these
Well,
are real people who
tell them
have
to call
an
Chuck
uncertain
Schumer.
future.
Tell
An
them to-
uncertain future.
Make a deal.
The Shalhoub deal.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I say, Maria, I don't even think it's March. I think it's January. Something's in January. They want this budget passed in January.
They need to get it
the
done
Democrats want it in January. And Mitch McConnell says, if you get me something on comprehensive immigration, I promise you I'll put it for a vote in January.
But what-
a lot of times Republicans won't put it out.
Mitch McConnell
What about
cash
the
that
wall,
check.
though? Because the DACA is not the issue. Everyone agrees
agree.
on DACA,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
The wall is the issue.
The
So
wall
why
is
is
the
the
issue.
Democrats are
that's the
so
thing, though.
opposed?
But to your point,
It's an issue for Democrats.
you can take DACA apart and say you get citizenship here.
Right.
There are people who are allowed in the country here. Same thing with the wall. The wall doesn't have to mean a 65,000-mile Great Wall of the United States. A $90 billion wall. That can actually mean that, part of it can be surveillance. Part of it can be a physical
Which
barrier.
We've talked about.
Exactly.
Right?
So,
But I don't understand the opposition from the left on the wall.
Symbolism.
Thing,
They don't want to give Trump a clear
but-
victory.
It's a little much.
Well, this is going to
about a
continue,
murky
certainly.
victory?
It's
I'll take
freezing.
murky.
It's freezing here in the north. What happened to global warming? Cue the tweet from President Trump. Coming up next. Stay tuned.
It is very cold outside in most of America. How cold is it? So cold that sharks are freezing to death in Cape Cod. So cold, the annual polar bear plunges around the country being canceled. So cold, cities are scrapping their New Year's Eve countdowns. Not this one, though.
Not
Don't worry,
yours.
Kennedy.
No,
It's
no.
so cold, the president now
There's
defending
the
it.
New Year.
Someone
Woo!
tell Jesse he's still got to come to work. Defending his decision again to pull us out of the climate deal in light of the Arctic temperatures. For example, I have a tweet of his. In the East, it could be the coldest New Year's Eve on record, the president tweets. Perhaps we could use a little bit of that good old global warming that our country, comma, but not other countries, comma, again, was going to pay trillions of dollars to protect against. Bundle up.
Exclamation point.
Thank you. Hey, didn't Al Gore issue that dire warning 7 years ago while accepting his Nobel Peace Prize that the entire polar ice cap may disappear by 2014?
Scientists reported with unprecedented alarm that the North Polar ice cap is, in their words, falling off a cliff. One study estimated that it could be completely gone during summer in less than 22 years. Another new study to be presented by U.S. Navy researchers later this week warns it could happen in as little as 7 years. 7 years from now.
All those people were sitting there shivering in fear, wondering when Al Gore was going to stop talking or start. In 2006, he also said within the next 10 years, the world will reach a point of no return. We're past that point of no return, and we've returned.
Not good.
So, the president tweets out, and they say, oh, my goodness, he doesn't like science, Marie Harf.
Yes.
He says global warming can't happen if we're freezing to death. Is he right?
No, he's trolling liberals. That's what he's doing here. Look, climate change doesn't mean that it can't be cold. And depending on where you live, hot gets hotter, cold gets colder. Last year was the hottest year on record. The year before that was the second hottest year on record. He does not understand climate science, but his administration actually does.
Does Al Gore
The 13
understand climate science?
scientific
Not so much.
agencies in the Trump administration affirmed that global warming is real and that humans are the cause.
Wait, global warming
will
or
have
climate change?
Manhattan-
I'm confused about the terminology
Right.
here.
See,
Because
that's the thing. I
it.
agree with you that the climate is certainly changing and weird stuff is going on, and we can't necessarily control it. The part that we can control, we have to look at that logically
Right.
and rationally and not emotionally. And I think that's
Yes.
been very problematic.
It's almost like a religion.
And it is a religion. It is incredibly
Absolutely.
dogmatic. And if you disagree with it, people like Tim Cook say you should be thrown in prison. I don't disagree with it, but I love actual science, and science is based in rationality. So what do we do now? How much of our economy do we sacrifice
Thank you.
in order to fix the problem?
And do you have to sacrifice it? I mean, clean energy is actually an economic job creator. They are making huge profits
Solera.
now.
Because they're subsidized by the government.
And look at natural gas.
More, 10
Coal is
times more
subsidized.
than oil and gas.
Coal is subsidized much more than clean energy. Wind,
No, it's not.
Wind,
That's not
solar.
true.
Go to a state like Texas,
Wind and solar
where they
are
are the
subsidized 10 to 1.
go to a state like
10 to 1.
Texas, where they are the
I've been there.
home
I've done
of
stories from
oil and
Texas
gas.
and
They
the
are
wind
also
turbines. I've
investing
done it.
in solar and wind at historic rates, and their energy costs are going down, and they're helping save the
They're also
planet.
fracking.
Marie, one thing.
They are
Tom,
fracking.
Tom.
Fracking is much better for the planet
Yep.
than
They're also
coal.
fracking a lot.
Right. Tom, calm down, okay? Let somebody else get a word in.
I'm a denier. I can't calm down.
He's not allowed to say anything.
Manhattan was, according to Al Gore, Manhattan was going to be underwater because of Greenland ice melt. Kilimanjaro was going to be snow-free, and we would be battling rapidly rising temperatures and stronger, more frequent storms. Manhattan's only been underwater once in the last few years.
It's true.
Tom, what's your reaction?
And the polar bear would
So
be
it
swimming.
was
and
President
swimming.
Trump wrong to
Never
tweet
stop.
that out?
No, he is trolling. I'll agree with Marie Harf on that. Trolling, but that's what he does. And everyone's losing their minds. The thing is, I want to stop having this argument about is it or isn't it, because now we have the people, they call them deniers, but on the other side, I call them the explainers. The explainers are saying, well, no, it's the solar winds, and the solar winds wouldn't be happening if everyone, I'm sick of the explainers. The thing is, I want to talk about the fact that carbon emissions, the one solution that people have on the left is cap the carbon, hurt our economy. That's not a good solution.
That's not the one solution. That's not also what it
All
does.
you guys will do. The only
How
thing
rich is
is
Al
capping
Gore gotten
carbon.
selling carbon credits?
Right.
That's the
flying
Paris.
around his private plane.
That's the Paris
Katie
agreement that we
Pavlich.
pulled out of, right?
But this
wrap
is a
things
real
up.
problem.
Put it all in
I
perspective.
just am tired of celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio, who owns a big yacht and a private jet to fly to the UN to give us all a lecture about how we need to do less for the planet. Well, you can start, first of all. The second thing is there's a difference between pollution and climate change. Are there things that we have done in the United States to stop pollution? To clean up the environment, absolutely. We should be doing more of that. China and India should be doing
They
more
are.
of that.
Okay, China and India are.
Let me just- one more thing.
China and India
I
are.
accept the premise that the climate is changing. It has been changing for billions of years. I'm from Arizona. It used to be under an ocean. You can find seashell fossils at the top of the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. Now, I'm going to get a lecture about the difference between weather and climate change.
not a lecture,
But the
it's
fact
facts.
is that the planet has been changing for a very long time, and we shouldn't throw our economy
Right.
away to
You don't
try and
have
act
to.
like we can control 1 or 2
No, but
areas.
I love the idea. I don't think we need big government solutions. I love technology. If there are companies
Bring it up.
that
It's a
allow
great
me
industry.
to drive around a Willie Nelson's tour bus that is
Fine.
fueled by biodiesel
Right.
or
a Partridge Family bus, which seemed very gas efficient.
Or a Flintstones bus where
great.
you can just
That was a great
bike
bus.
your
rest
way.
in
use your
Cassidy's
feet.
soul, then
Use your
you
feet.
know,
Yeah.
go ahead. Let's embrace the future.
All right, I think that was a wonderful way to end.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, fantastic. I think it's the least I could do. All right, the only thing left for me to do in this block is read the tease out, so everyone stand back. Coming up, a comedy show exclusive to women only. It's causing a stir. Why won't you let men in? We'll debate it and sue about it in just a moment.
Have to tweak her comedy show to be more inclusive. Men are not allowed, and now a lawsuit has been filed against her. The suit suggests she discriminated against men in her November show in Los Angeles, advertised as "No Boys Allowed." The man suing attempted to see the show with a male friend, only to be told to sit in the back row and later asked to leave, according to the lawsuit. So, Tom Shalhoub, do you discriminate at your comedy shows?
I wish I could. I wish I could exclude half my audience and still sell out the room. First of all, comedians can do whatever they want because there's a separate set of rules for them, and I endorse that.
In what way?
We're free to do and say things that other people aren't. That's one of the great agreements we've made with comedians.
Don't you think there's an offensive line now?
Yes, there is. It's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
But obviously, the thing is, everything is working out great with this story. She, rather than, I don't think her desire was to do a show for all women. It was to get attention for doing a show for all women, which is her right to do. She did that. This guy, I don't think he wants to see a women's comedy show, whether he's sitting in the back or not.
I think that's
He wants to
sexist.
cause a stir. And I want to thank Marie Harf for making this all possible, Marie, because you leftists, you wanted a world like this, people suing each other for discrimination and everything else. Well, this guy is obviously a troll, and he's taking it.
You're welcome.
And he's taking it and he's shoving it in our faces. So it's working out well for everybody.
Marie, the Schlesinger Eliza says that this is a legal matter, so she can't talk about it, but she's upset this has become a big thing and really just wanted to get a bunch of gals together to talk about issues they go through, laugh about things, and to donate money to Planned Parenthood.
I'm sorry, I don't feel bad for men in this situation. This guy who's suing was part of this national coalition for men, who think that somehow life is really hard for them. I was telling Tom earlier that, I will give up ladies' nights at bars and clubs if I get equal pay. If women,
But you
not me,
do,
not myself,
so.
women. Women don't get equal pay to men. I was sort of saying it offhand, but come on, everyone, we have bigger problems to focus on in this country.
I think this
right?
is the biggest. I think if we could tackle this, everything else is easy.
should have been the
It
A
was-
story.
Difference between
All right.
men and women.
But I just think this, I find it fascinating. There's a precedent for the story back in California. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of a plaintiff against a Metro car wash that had a ladies' night that would give a discount to people.
The
Ladies' night
Metro
is
car wash
discriminatory.
ladies'
Yes.
night.
Right.
And the barn burner.
And discounts for ladies' nights in general in California are not allowed because they are illegal and
Oh, it's
discriminatory.
equality. That's what we want. We want everyone to be equal at all times. No, if you own a business,
Yes.
you should be able to have anyone in that you want. Just like you should have the freedom to bake a cake for whoever you want. And that's a very libertarian argument. If you have someone who
But you can't discriminate based on race or religion.
Or gender in this case.
Right.
Why is she discriminating against men?
it is discrimination, then.
It is. I don't
Then
get it.
you
So
must
wait,
be
what's
you
the
must
answer?
be virulently opposed to this ladies' night because it is taking an entire category of human based on an immutable quality that unless
I
they
think the
have
men should
some-
have to pay. Ladies should get in for free, and the men should have to pay.
Okay, but he paid
Well, that's like every
$30
bar
for his
that
ticket to
it
get
wants
into the show.
to make a dead night like a Tuesday is a good ladies'
Right,
night. Am I right, Tom?
Yes,
So Tuesday's a good night. If you want to get people at a
Kill me,
bar, you have a
no,
ladies'
ladies'
night.
night.
So it's only protection for certain people that you deem fit.
No. Legally, there are certain protections under the law about discrimination.
So you want the
Which
guy
is
to be
why
able
this guy's
to.
suing.
You are standing with this guy.
I just
for
don't feel
suing,
bad
right?
for him. I think he's
Yeah,
kind
but
of a
you
jerk.
think
but
he
you
should
think
win his
he's
suit,
right.
though?
I don't know. I'm not an attorney.
But
Wasn't that a good legalistic answer?
Yes.
no, it's
No,
not.
I just don't feel bad for this guy. Come on.
I don't either.
It's
The-
life,
he
it's
doesn't-
Not about
Life
Marie.
is-
Okay, I'm gonna give you a little piece of advice, and I know it runs counter to everything in your being. It's not always about feelings.
Yeah, it's not.
Sometimes
My liberal
it's-
feelings?
Yes, and I know it's about feelings and emotion, and men have kept us down for so long. By gum, we deserve to go out and burn our bras and laugh.
Yeah.
Right.
Fine,
We're
have
gonna buy
at
new
it.
bras.
I don't care. I think business owners should be free to hire and fire and exclude whoever they want. And then when it gets out that they've been horrible, awful pigs to people, let the
don't go
free
there.
market decide.
Right.
People won't go and their businesses will close.
Well, this story has motivated me to watch Little Rascals, where they have a He-Man's women's club, no women's club.
Yeah,
right?
He-Man
They
Women's Hater
started
Club.
all of
Yeah.
this.
I'm making
exactly.
resolutions 2018, no feelings.
Totally
You
gonna
were-
go see it.
you were
No feelings in
Yes,
2018.
noted.
Not
By the way,
alive.
it's
No.
very hard to watch Little Rascals anymore. All you get the one is when they grew up.
I
The
know.
old gang.
The
or whatever
other one
that
is the classic.
The other ones makes really a
Anyway,
lot of
moving on to the
sense.
weekend almost. Facebook.
As 2017 comes to a close, The Five has one more Facebook Friday to squeeze in. Let's do this, America. All right, this one comes from, let's be quick, guys, because I didn't
Okay.
get through them all last time.
Okay.
We're ready.
Boy. Question from Claudia W. What new movie do you really want to see, Kennedy?
Last Jedi.
Oh, yeah. How about you?
too.
Lori?
Darkest Hour, Winston Churchill movie.
What?
The movie about Winston Churchill.
That sounds good on a resume. What about you?
2018, I'm looking forward to Creed 2. I heard there's going to be
I have
boxing
another
in it. Yes.
And Pitch Perfect too. Wait, I'm adding
choose
that.
Kennedy's and Marie's.
Three.
Both
What is
of
it?
those. The Last Jedi and the Churchill movie. Both of them.
All right.
And Lady Bird.
I'll probably take
And
my
Lady
kids
Bird.
to see the Last Jedi. I don't get out to the movies enough, and when I do, I bring the kids. Okay, question from Anna Marie S. How do you relax after working such long hours, Katie?
I never relax, ever. No, I take my dog for a walk, go to the gym, hang out, and then start working again. So.
Kill me. You don't rest. You're crazy.
Right. I'm not really into relaxing, but if I did, it would probably be something I couldn't mention on the air.
You would-
No, I wouldn't. I don't
Oh,
really like to
wow.
relax.
Slow
Yeah.
down, weirdo.
Thank you very much.
What-
You cannot comment on my answer
Yes,
to
I
the
can.
question.
Marie.
It's America.
What people don't know about Kilmeade, he sleeps upside down like Batman.
Yep.
I had heard that somewhere.
Right.
Sleep?
Weird.
That's news.
I did they advertise that.
I drink scotch.
Scotch to relax
Relax.
after long hours. Oh.
Yes.
A lot?
How about you,
No,
Kennedy?
an appropriate amount.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you prefer rye.
I like having some rye and then going swimming.
Yeah, that's
Working
great.
out with a very light buzz is quite fun.
She's right about that.
Swimming is great. I wish I did it
but
more.
Kennedy's workout is really a mini triathlon.
Right.
Yes.
So
I mean,
that's
you're
with
ridiculous.
caution.
It is
You
crazy.
do not work out, Buzz. That is not true. That is erroneous. That is bad
That
reporting.
is fake news.
Fake news.
I like this. I'm going to get to 5, but I'll ask the other 2, but I want to skip to this because it's my favorite one. Question from Kevin R. What's the worst job each of you has had, Kennedy?
Oh, the worst job? I had to cold call people when I was 16 to see if they wanted a new homeowner's insurance policy.
Oh, that's the worst.
It was the worst.
Insurance? That is a classic one. Marie,
I-
State
I-
Department?
Come on.
I'm joking.
I'm not going to answer. I'm boycotting
kidding.
this question. I loved all of my jobs.
Who's your favorite boss? I'm
John
setting
Ker-
you up.
John Kerry.
John Kerry. I knew she would say that.
That was something. A Facebook question has to be from Facebook. It can't be from Tom Shalhoub.
It's on his face.
Kevin R. What's the worst job each of you had?
All right, my worst job, it's really a tie, but one of the jobs, I got hired to be a waiter, and I said, this is great. And then I said, what do I wear? They go, just wear a T-shirt. I said, that's great. And I go, wait a second, I'm not really a waiter because I had to bust the tables too. They go, yeah, you got to do that too. And then I kept putting the plates to the dishwasher, and I go, these plates are piling up. I go, oh yeah, you had to wash the dishes too. So I was a waiter, a busboy, and a dishwasher
What?
in the same job. By the end of the night,
What were
I
you, a
smelled
mom?
like hell. Yeah. Well, that's true.
They give you
But
a-
I mean, I was duped into getting this job, and the job, it was at a pizza place too. So I smelled terribly, and I was duped into taking the worst job ever.
I also
Worst
loved
job
all
ever.
of my jobs, but the job that wasn't really a voluntary job was being grounded by my parents and having to pick up dog poop.
Oh,
Wow.
Not a fun job.
Dog poop.
Yep.
This is all,
Was it your dog?
Our dog, yes.
try it with a little bit of scotch.
all these worst jobs
Yeah,
ever. It's
maybe
all
that
Then have a
would've
light
domestic
workout.
helped.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Kennedy?
But it taught me lots of good
Yeah.
lessons about life.
It's just
So
all
it's okay.
domestic stuff that's the worst jobs ever.
Right, yeah.
Life.
Those are cold chores.
Life is hard.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry that I went out of order. Here we go. Question from Daria W. What time of the day are you most productive?
Oh, that's a fine question. 7 a.m.
So you're a morning person.
Yeah.
Marie?
Me too. Morning.
Kill me.
3:30.
Yeah, because you're up at
AM.
AM. I am really am. That's when my most valuable, when I find I'm the most interesting, when no one's around. And I'm alone and I'm studying.
But don't you find
I find
that it used to
myself
be-
fascinating.
Don't you find it used to be late at night?
Right.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Like, 3 in the morning, woo! And now it's like after 9 hours of sleep.
What's your alarm set for? Is it 3?
2:20. Yeah.
Gosh.
You gotta get to bed.
I
It's
know.
almost 6 o'clock.
Don't worry, Tuesday.
Yeah, well, it's Friday.
Pavlich?
My favorite or my most productive time of the day, probably in the morning. Yeah, early in the morning when no one's really around or up.
Wow.
Running errands on a Sunday morning at 9 a.m., 8 a.m. is the best to get a lot
We
done.
sound like we have such
We're such
lives.
adults.
I tend to
we're
turn on at
adulting.
like
We're
10
so
at
good
night.
at it. We're
Lives
so good
here.
at
You
it.
have a tough job because you actually have to be on the radio in the afternoon and sometimes go stand up at night.
That's
and
right.
if you can't have a bad portion of the day.
Well, now that, when I had Red Eye, that was ideal. But now my radio show starts at 3 p.m. To me, that's a morning job.
Right. Usually get up around that.
Yeah. Well, I get up and then I go back to sleep. Question from Lorraine K. What was the best news reported for 2017? Or I guess favorite news story? Is that what he means? I don't know what Kevin's talking about. Lorraine?
Lorraine.
Yeah, best news reported. for 2017.
I enjoyed the coverage of Bitcoin so much because it was almost as polarizing as the coverage of the president. People were so excited when it was going up 40% in value in one day, and then when it plummeted, another group of people would cheer. So
Yeah.
I love cryptocurrency hysteria.
Marie Harf?
I actually think the fact that citizens in this country are paying more attention to what's happening, even though there's a lot of polarization, that's been a really
Too
good
generic
part
of an answer. Please
No,
answer
it's not.
specifically.
Or the fact that it's almost over. That's my favorite story
Right.
of
That's it.
2017. We'll be watching Kennedy on New Year's Eve. That's my favorite story.
My favorite story. By the way, we got to get some promos out for this New Year's Eve.
I'm really worried.
Did you know
Nobody
she's
knows
on
about
TV on New
it.
Year's?
That reporting of the misspelling by the president, Kofefe. To see
that was good.
every news reporter go take this spell check trip to hell to try to mispronounce, try to say this word Kofefe, and then pursue that story. I found it legitimately hysterical.
In the
I said
White House
Kofifi.
press room, over the coffee machine, it has Kofefe on a sticky note written above the coffee.
It shows you how crazy everything is.
Yeah.
Favorite
My
story?
favorite stories of the year were the stories of the president and the State Department getting Americans back from overseas. The Otto Warmbier story was tragedy, but I do think it was good news that they were able to get him home. So I was happy to hear those stories.
Fantastic. Best story of the year. Tom Shalhoub to fill in on the 5 for an entire week. That was good news.
Moving up in
It's been a great week. One More Thing is up next.
Mr. Churchill.
Witness the
We've been climbing the mountain. We have reached the summit. It is now time for One More Thing. Let us start with one and only Brian Kilmeade.
There's one series that affects my life that's totally fictional, and it's the Rocky series. And I watch each one, and every time I hit a crossroads in my life, I look back to a Rocky and think, what would Rocky do? And that's why when this story reached the news, I thought I should share it as one more thing. First off, the iconic moment in Rocky III.
Rocky Balboa.
And it absolutely is, especially to Sylvester Stallone. The backup statue, which is 9 feet, 1,800 pounds, was up for auction because the San Diego Hall of Champions no longer exists. They had to get rid of it. And guess who bid for it? Sylvester Stallone. He bid for a statue, which is his almost likeness on his fictional character called Rocky. It is now with him, and guess who showed up to christen it? Arnold Schwarzenegger. It is in good hands. The Rocky legacy lives on with the man that created it, just in time for Creed 2 to come out this year.
Woo.
And that's my one more thing.
Well done, Brian.
Thank you.
You're a bum. Not really. That's
I'm
that's a
knocking
line
you tomorrow, Rock.
from Rocky.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, I am most excited because this Sunday night, the only place to be on the planet of Earth, of course, is Times Square. Jesse Waters and I are hosting All-American New Year. That is New Year's Eve starting at 10 p.m. in the East, 7 in the West. So chill your bubbly, throw on some steaks, crack your crab, and get in your Snuggie because Jesse and I are going to warm your hearts, bringing you the most indelible, creative, exciting, and wonderful moments you've ever had on New Year's Eve. It is going to be so much fun. Again, it will be frigid. We will find a way to warm the crowd and save the planet.
Will you wear that dress with the sleeves exposed? Will your arms be exposed like you were in that photo?
Why do you want my skin to fall off, Brian?
I'm just wondering.
What I do have, and it remains to be seen, this is a TBD, I do have a recreation of the bodysuit Mariah Carey wore last year.
Oh, my
The
goodness.
wardrobe department
There you
here
go.
in Fox
For that.
is so good, they went and got the bodysuit, so we'll see.
By the way, her New Year's Eve appearance didn't go so well, according to
Well,
reports.
she gets a
Coming back
mulligan this year, Katie.
We'll
I'm not
see.
watching.
Okay, so the internet is awash in Twitter with doggos, which is short for dogs. Adorable, photogenic dogs. This is my dog. Just like the internet, my phone is awash with these photos. It was hard to choose just 4 of them for you to see. But the term doggo is internet speak for dogs. And in a story published on the Merriam-Webster website, they are paying attention to this word and saying that they may deem doggo a real word and put it in the dictionary. And actually, a little history shows that the term doggo is not just Twitter internet slang. It actually was used in the 19th century to describe lying dogs, and mentions of doggos have exploded in recent months. So it may become a
The
real
lying
word.
they're doing is sleeping on their cute little beds, Marie.
Exactly. Doggo is
Kennedy.
coming.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It is college football bowl season. After the NFL controversy this year, I think we can all celebrate football at its finest with college football. And 2 of the most historic programs in college football history, my Ohio State Big Ten champion Buckeyes. Number 5 will take on the Pac-12 champion USC Trojans, which Kennedy also hates. Number 8 in the Cotton Bowl, like an old school Big Ten Rose Bowl that we used to have. But the Buckeyes are also giving back this year. Dozens of students, faculty, staff, and alumni from The Ohio State University, led by President Michael Drake, teamed up to aid Goodwill in Dallas this week. And they worked with USC. They got packed clothes for the Goodwill, and it was a really
That is
a nice thing to do.
wonderful. Well done, Maria. Can't spell
Over to
suck
you.
without USC. Tom?
Exactly.
All right, Task the Resident Artist, an American hero, draws my show every day. Let's take a look at some of the pictures drawing the 5.